everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. And I'm excited because I've been meaning to try the 8-ounce Starbucks pods, as I mentioned in the last couple of videos. And so today we are finally going to start that series. Now, before we get into the video, I did want to preface it by saying that Starbucks offers 6 different 8-ounce Vertuo line pods right now. And so with that being said, I decided to separate this series into a 2-part video because one, I think 6 cups of coffee is a whole lot to taste test and review for you guys in one singular video. And 2, unfortunately, I still don't have the Sumatra 8-ounce pod that they offer. I've been going around to different grocery stores the last couple of weeks to try and find this pod, and for some reason, I still can't find it. So I'm going to be ordering it on Amazon, and in the meantime, I thought I would at least taste test half of them for you today. The first pod set that I really am excited to try is the Veranda blend. You guys already know that I'm definitely more of a blonde roasted coffee gal, so I think this cup is easily going to become one of my favorites, and I haven't tried it before. I have tried the Veranda blend coffee at Starbucks, so I'm interested to see how this is going to differ. The next one we're going to be trying is the Colombia single origin coffee that Starbucks offers. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually tried this coffee before. However, you guys already know I'm a big fan of South American coffee, so I think this is going to be a real treat to try. The last one for today we're going to be trying is the new creamy vanilla pod. I just saw this show up in my local Target, and I'm really excited to try it. I'm thinking they're trying to kind of copy Nespresso with their new sweet vanilla pod, and so I think this creamy vanilla flavored coffee is going to be, again, an absolute treat. Now, something that I've noticed with all of these pods is that they're fairly medium intensity. So this one apparently is like a 4 to 6. And then the Colombia is supposed to be a 7, and then the Veranda is supposed to be a 6. So I think this is going to be, again, a real treat. All of these intensities are right up my alley, so I say we get into it, starting with the Veranda blend. Okay, so I just brewed the Veranda blend, and just reading off the description, apparently we're supposed to be expecting some toasted malt and baking chocolate notes, which sounds really, really yummy. And I didn't initially know this, but apparently this is also a blend of Latin American coffees, which again is going to be a real treat and that I think is going to be right up my alley. So I say we give it a smell and a taste. Okay. Now, just with the smell, this is a very acidic smelling pod anyway, so I can see why it would be blonde roasted. Not a whole lot of bitterness smelling, just more like fruity, acidic. And I won't say it goes as far as being like pungent like the Nespresso Starbucks collaboration remix pod, but I do think it is very acidic. So I'm kind of worried, but we'll give it a taste. Wow. So I definitely get I don't really get a lot of toasted malt notes, but I do get a lot of like that sweetness of baker's chocolate at the very like end of my palate. And baker's chocolate is kind of a weird mixture, I think, of rich and just a smidge bitter, but also sweet. So I do think this aftertaste of it is very on par with that. It's also surprisingly mellow for how acidic it smelled. I really thought that it was going to be a problem going down just plain like this, but I do think it's just a light, yummy, mellow cup. I wouldn't go as far as to compare it to Melozio because I do think Melozio is just a smidge sweeter, but I do think if I were to compare it to a pod, it would be probably the closest to Melozio in an espresso line just because it is very light, very easy to drink. And I think that this could easily go in an iced coffee and it still won't be watered down because it still has that little bit of oomph to it that I sometimes worry about putting blonde coffee over ice and expecting it not to be super watered down and such. But this will go fine with it, I think. And I'm excited. If you guys have any recipes that you recommend for this pod, I'm excited to try it a whole bunch of different ways. But if I had to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it would be a solid 8.5. I can see myself getting this pod even again after this review is done. So I think that's a win-win for me. Okay, such a good cup. Now let's get into the Colombia pod. And I'm going to be honest with you, they all have very plain designs. The Veranda one was this one. I realized I didn't show it. But very plain colors so far. I'm interested to see what the creamy vanilla design will be. But yeah, Veranda, Colombia, let's try this one. Now again, the Colombia coffee is supposed to be just a smidge more intense at a level intensity 7 versus 6. So it's supposed to be a medium roasted coffee overall, and the notes we're supposed to be expecting, according to the box here, are toasted walnut and herb notes. So let's give it a smell and a taste. Ooh, so yeah, definitely a little bit more acidic than the last one from what I'm smelling. Almost as pungent as the Starbucks one. And I swear, like, just with smelling Nespresso pods, I keep comparing it to that because it was definitely very pungent. And I can smell that in this cup as well, which is very on par and reminiscent of a Colombian coffee because usually Latin American coffees tend to be very acidic. So let's give it a try. That is a really nice pod. This is really nice. I think that the Veranda blend is nice for other reasons. Like, I think that if you're just going for a plain cup that's just mellow and it's yummy, definitely go for the Veranda blend. If you're looking for a really yummy cup that's just a smidge more acidic and it just gives it a little bit more character in the morning, I do think that this is the pod for you. I love it. I think it's really good. I think it's acidic, but not too acidic or bold to the point that it's just too much for you in a cup. So in my opinion, I would give this the same rating just for a different reason. I don't think I love more than the other, but I think that this might be a little bit better for iced coffee. So if that's a factor for y'all, definitely consider it. And if you think you like more acidic cups of coffee, I think this is it for you. So yeah, let's get into the very last pod, which is gonna be the creamy vanilla pod. Okay, not to fangirl, but I did just brew the creamy vanilla pod, and the aromatics are definitely sweeter than the Nespresso sweet vanilla pod. It smells very inviting and really yummy, and I'm excited to try it. But before we taste it, I did want to show you guys, after opening the box, I did see the design of the pod, and it literally looks almost exactly like the Veranda pod, okay? They just added a little swirl on it, which I found really funny. Okay, so now that banter's done, let's get into a sniff and a taste of the new creamy vanilla pod. So again, super, super sweet, smells like shortbread and caramel candy. It's such a delightful smell. So I'm a little bit caught off guard because this actually tastes a little bit bolder or a little bit roastier than the Veranda blend. I'm not going to say it's more acidic or bitter because it still goes down really, really nicely, very smoothly, and I have no complaints with it. I don't really get a lot of the vanilla taste, much like my complaints were with the Nespresso sweet vanilla pod. I think vanilla is such like a subtle flavor sometimes that it's hard to really like incorporate it without it being overbearing, if that makes sense. So I can understand the struggle that they get with these vanilla flavored pods. I don't think that it's bad. I do think I enjoy it. I just don't think I would choose this pod specifically over the sweet vanilla pod unless it was due to like convenience of it being at my local grocery store and I really wanted a vanilla cup of coffee while I was out at the grocery store. So with that being said, I think I'm going to rate it like a 7 out of 10. Again, don't think it's bad. I think it'll hold up really well to an iced coffee, which again, very pleasantly surprised by considering it's an intensity 5. So it's even supposed to be less intense than the Veranda blend, but I don't think it necessarily tastes like that. I think it's like on par with it, if not a little bit roastier. So again, good pod, just not personally for me, and I don't think I would go out of my way to buy it again. And that's all taken in consideration considering the price of the pod. So before I end out this video, I did want to talk a little bit about the price of these pods versus how many I get versus Nespresso. So I think we can all level for a second and say that regardless of the opinions that I shared about these pods in my video, as well as yours from home, I think that we all go out and buy these third-party pods for like 2 main reasons. One being, you know, maybe they're less expensive than the original Nespresso pods that we're buying from, and so it's just making coffee making more affordable and convenient. 2 is it's a little bit more convenient to go to your local grocery store and just pick up a pack of like 8 to 10 pods from Target or from Walmart or whatever it may be and bring them home versus going to your local Nespresso store that may be miles away or waiting 3 to 7 days to get your Nespresso package shipped to you with the coffee that you really enjoy. So generally, if we can find a very affordable cup of coffee that's super convenient, we'll have it. So I was a little bit disappointed at the price of these pods for that reason, because they come in packages of 8, and each of these, I think depending on the store I went to, could range from like $11 something to $13.50 a whole package of 8. which if you look at the Nespresso website anyway, and I go and order, like, let's say Melozio, which I would say is probably very similar to Veranda and the creamy vanilla that I tried here today, it's going to be $12.50 for a pack of 10. And if you go on Amazon and buy them in bulk, these Melozio pods, you can even get them for cheaper per pod. So with that being said, I don't know if getting a package of 8 for $13.50, at least from where I'm from, is a little bit too expensive for these pods. I do think they're really nice, but at that rate, I would just buy from Nespresso. So that is my humble and non-professional opinion. Take that as you will. And if you have any recipe recommendations for these pods, I now have a whole bunch of 8-ounce pods that I really need to get through. So any recipe recommendations for these pods would be absolutely amazing. Additionally, let me know what you guys think about these 3 pods. I'm excited to hear from y'all if you've tried them already. And remember to stay tuned for next week's video. I'll be going over the Pike Place pod, the Sumatra Blend pod, and the Cafe Verona pod, okay? So I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye.